Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest moves that I've ever done in my life. When I moved from Brazil to Australia and I left everything behind, my family, my house, everything in Brazil. So I moved to here with no support. I was completely lost in my life. I was working a job that I used to hate, and I just decided to make the biggest move of my life. And by the end of this video, you'll see that the best thing that I have ever done in my life was to face discomfort and start everything over again. The first thing that I want to talk about you is just really go back to those days that I was just living in Brazil. I left school and I just started university right away. I started studying market. I told that was going to be my path to actually become successful in life. So I started studying marketing. I studied for like a year and a half. And then after that, I just realized that it wasn't for me. So I was working in a job like with telemarketing that was just calling people to ask them to pay the credit cards. Those people that is just like they don't pay their credit cards in time, and then someone has to call them, that annoying person, to call them and just ask them to pay their bills. I was that guy. That was like that annoying guy calling up all those people that didn't pay the credit cards. So that was the job that I was actually working in Brazil when I decided to leave it, because I had no direction where to go. I didn't know what I was gonna do in my life. It got to a point where I left uni, I was working a shit job, and I was completely lost. I didn't know where to go. And my mom just came and just asked me, "What's gonna happen with you now?" I didn't know what to answer. I said, "I just need to think." And then she went back, "What do you need to think about? You just gotta start studying something. You just gotta do something." But I didn't know what to do. I just kept working that shit job. When it got to a point where I was like, I need to get out of this. I need to stop procrastinating. Just take a step towards something. That's when it got to a point where my mom just say, "Look, I've got some money in the bank that I have been saving for you or for your sister to really invest on you guys, just to do something. What do you want to do? What about if you just go away, go overseas, and learn English?" Because I didn't know how to speak English at all at that time. And that was like 10 years ago when I was 19 years old. I didn't know how to speak English at all. And today you can't do anything without English. I was like, okay, let's give it a try. Let's go to the other side of the world and just learn something. But then I didn't know how to speak English. I didn't have my family with me. I didn't have money. I had money for like a month of bills to pay. And that was hard because I had basically no support. I was 19 years old. My whole life was basically wait for my mom to do things for me. She was cooking for me, doing my laundry, making up my bed. I was basically doing nothing. I was working that shit job and getting home and spending the whole afternoon watching TV without feeling like I needed to do something. But that was the turning point of my life, because when I moved to Australia, I had to become a man. I was a little boy when I was living with my mom. But then when I moved to Australia, all the responsibility, they're just on my back. It was just all on me. And I had to get started with something in my life. I couldn't just wait for someone to come and save me, because my mom wouldn't send me money, because it's way more expensive for us to send money from Brazil to Australia, because the currency in Brazil is really shit. And for you just to turn that into Australian dollar, you have to put way more of the Brazilian currency. And that just makes things so much harder. Then when I got in Australia, I was living with an Australian family. My first month in Australia, I was living in a house with an Australian family, because we call that like homestay. So you stay in a home in your first month, because like I said, I didn't know anything. I was communicating with them with my Google Translator on my phone, because I knew nothing about English. And how are you supposed to get a job without speaking the language, without knowing what to say, or even to listen others to the other people are just gonna talk to you? Can you just imagine how it was? Can you just imagine how to take the public transport without knowing how to read where the bus goes? That was my life when I got here. That was something that I was just like facing discomfort every single moment. It's not like even every single day, it's every single moment. Because I didn't know what to do, anything. I was just like going to the school, the English school, to learn English, but I was depending on my phone all the time just to understand anything. I was like, okay, so how am I supposed to find a job? How am I supposed to actually find something that I can work, that I don't need to speak English, that I don't need to communicate with anyone? Because it was just hard for me to understand anything. I started relying on Brazilians, you know. I asked them, how can I find a job? Is there anyone that I could work for Brazilians, that I can just talk to me in Portuguese so I can understand what they're saying and the others and what the job was about? And I didn't have to speak English at all. I was like, okay, so I need to talk to them. So I started messaging Brazilians who had like cleaning companies, construction jobs, anything. At some point, I got one reply from one Colombian guy, you know, because I was just like in the English classes, and then there was many Colombian guys there. Don't ask me why, because there's so many Colombians here too. One of them just replied to me and said, look, I've got an opportunity here if you want to come, and then we can just have a chat about it. He just replied that in English. I was just like translating that on my phone, so it was easy. When I got there, I just realized that he was Spanish, and Portuguese is very similar to Spanish. So it was kind of like easy for me. So I was just speaking to them in Portuguese. They were just replying to me in Spanish, and I was understanding what they're talking about because it's similar, you know, it's not the same, but we can kind of like understand each other. I was like, okay, that's good. You know, so that job was in a nightclub. Like I was just going to be working like on Monday and Saturdays at that job because that's the only days that the nightclub opens. But it was a start. You know, the guy say, look, yeah, just come work with us. You know, you only have like Colombian guys here, so you don't need to speak English. And if there is anything that you need to talk with someone in English, just ask one of those guys, and then they can talk English with that person. So you don't need to talk to the girls or to the guys at the nightclub or anything. So the job that I was doing at the nightclub, my first job ever here in Australia, I was picking up glasses around the nightclub and then cleaning up the floor when drunk people was just spilling drinks, liquid on the floor. You know, it's just like dropping glasses on the floor. I was that guy just picking up the glasses, cleaning the floor, and just making sure that everything was in order, you know, because I didn't have to speak to anyone. I just had to make sure that I was doing my job properly, basically. And that was my first job that I got. And it was only on the weekends, you know, so I was just working Fridays and Saturdays because during the week I was just like going to the English classes in the morning and I couldn't find anything in the afternoon to work. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And that job just really saved me because I was working on the weekends. I wasn't getting that much money, maybe like, you know, $400 or something, but I was very good at something. I don't like to spend money on useless things. So I saved every single penny of that money that I was just getting from that job because I didn't know what to expect in the future. And I only had my visa for like 6 months. And then if I wanted to stay in Australia for longer, I had to apply for a new visa to stay here longer. And I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, so I had to work towards that goal of staying here because if I decided to stay, I needed to have the money, right? So I started saving everything. I didn't go out. If I was going out, I was like leaving home with $20 in my pocket, and that was it. I didn't even bring my credit cards or anything like that. Those thought tapping the phone. I think there wasn't a thing back then. There was just like, credit cards. And I was just taking, cash, $20. That was it that I could spend. And that job really just made it possible for me to stay longer in Australia. Is just after the 6 months that I stayed here, I just realized that it wasn't enough for me to learn proper English because I spent so much time with Brazilians in the beginning because I didn't know how to speak English. And when you're just so far away from home with anyone, you tend to rely on your own culture with your own people because you just feel like home. You just feel like you got a family. So it just makes things easier. That's when I was speaking only Portuguese basically. I was living with Brazilians, working with Brazilians, going out with Brazilians. And I just realized that after renewing my visa, I just realized that I was stuck again, not the same when I was in Brazil, but I got to a point where, okay, so I came to Australia to learn English and I'm just spending time with Brazilians. I am only speaking Portuguese. How am I supposed to learn? I came to here to learn English and I'm not even speaking the language. I'm not even trying to speak the language because I was in a house with only Brazilians, going out with Brazilians and live with work with Brazilians. And I wasn't speaking English at all. It was a big thing that just happened with me. After a couple of months, no, like 10 months, 4 months after I renewed my visa, I just made the decision of I need to get out of here. I need to get away from Brazilians and just start learning English because I'm feeling useless. I'm feeling like a piece of shit basically because I've been here I was just thinking with myself back then, like I've been here for nearly a year and I'm not able to speak the language. I'm not able to do what I came here for. I was like, okay, so how can I get out of this situation? How can I get out of this comfortable zone? I knew that staying in that city that I was living in Brisbane, it wouldn't get me away from those people because even if I tried hard, I knew that I would always end up getting back with them, which is very annoying. I was like, okay, let's do another move. Let's get out of the city. Let's move to Sydney. That's when I made the decision of moving to Sydney. After a year in Australia, only speaking Portuguese, I moved to Sydney and I say, I will be away from Brazilians because I need to learn a proper English. I need to put myself in uncomfortable situations. I need to put myself in hard moments where I am going to force myself to learn new things. And that's the good point. What I want to tell this story for you is about the biggest growth happens when you force yourself into uncomfortable moments, when uncertainty is just something that is part of your life and you know that is going to be a huge opportunity there for you to grow. And I was doing that and I didn't have this mindset that I have today, but just looking back then, that's exactly what happened. I decided to move to another city because I knew that I was getting too comfortable. When I got to Sydney, I stayed away from Brazilians for about 2 to 3 years, only learning English, only going out with like foreign people. It's just foreigners, like Australians, backpackers from Europe, like anyone that didn't speak Portuguese, basically. And that's when my English, my level of English skyrocketed. Because the only thing that I was doing is just speaking English. I was working with Australians, going out with like Australians, like Europeans, living with them as well. And that's the point about putting yourself in these moments where you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know anything. It feels hard, but you know that growth will happen there. That's when I moved from Brazil to Australia, when I learned the new language. I learned how to be a man in a matter of like a couple of months, because I was just a little baby boy when I left Brazil. I didn't know how to even turn on the washing machine. I had to call my mom to know how to turn on the washing machine back then. I grew up so quickly. And that happened because I put myself in uncomfortable situations and I have to take my family for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And after 10 years, I'm still here. And I've been supporting my family a lot because I feel that I'm still in debt with them. I still owe them for this huge opportunity that they just helped me to get. And one of the reasons that I really want to win in life, be successful in life, is to help them. It's just to really be able to provide a better thing, better life for them, retire my mom and be able to help others, being able to help people who are in need. And that's the more fulfilling part about being here and just like making these videos and talk to you all, because it's important, when you just focus on helping others and helping them to transform their lives and achieving what they are looking for, that's the most fulfilling part of life. That's what I wanted to bring to you today. If you enjoyed the video, just leave a comment here in the video, subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you on the next one.